And welcome back to another episode of Just Being Frank, coming at you from the Champion Center here in Amherst. My name's Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, alongside head coach for UMass men's basketball, Coach Frank Martin. Coach, good afternoon. How you doing?
I used to enjoy these a lot more when we did them before practice. This post practice stuff here, it's I'm getting old, Jay. I get tired after practice.
You give your all when I watch those practices. Does it take a lot out of you emotionally and physically?
Yeah, it's taxing. It's can't ask your players to play as hard as I ask them to play, and then I just sit on the side and cross my legs and either clap or criticize. I mean, I can't. I got to be committed to what I believe in, and if I want the players to commit to it, then I got to give them my energy too. And it's just I'm good. I'm being an old sarcastic. You know what? That's the only way I know how to do it. The day I can't do what you see in practice, that's when I got to go run that establishment I keep talking to you about.
Nice little. What, like a little restaurant, little pub, little sports?
That restaurant's too complicated.
Yeah.
Maybe chips, salsa, some chicken wings, and a lot of cold adult beverages overlooking with a little breeze where there's water nearby, so we can sit there in the ambiance and
you're not there. You're not there yet, Coach. So thanks for taking the time today. The Just Being Frank podcast brought to you by our friends of the Massachusetts Collective, the official NIL partner of UMass men's and women's basketball. The Mass Collective, your support changes the game and drives future success. Learn more and join us, please, at themasscollective.com. Coach, we're recording this a couple of days before your game against Harvard, which is coming up on Friday at the Mullen Center, and a couple of days after your victory against Quinnipiac to improve to 2-0. So I'd like to dive into, just your general thoughts now. You've had some time to digest that win over Quinnipiac and, how you felt your team performed. Second game of the year.
Yeah. I thought we figured out how to play better as the game wore on. I was not overly thrilled with our Saturday practice. We were better on Sunday, but not as sharp as we needed to be. And I think when that game started, I think you could see some of that, what I'm talking about. We didn't defend nearly as well. The simplicities of the things we spoke about that we needed to defend, we weren't good at it. And then offensively, I thought we were disjointed and took some bad shots. And we're lucky that we made a couple bad shots. But then as the game wore on, I think the team that we've committed to become, that our guys have been real good about, I think kind of started to take over. And then as the game wore on, we kept playing better and better and better, both offensively and defensively. And with a young team, I'm really proud that we were able to grow within the game. But I also worry that we don't create bad habits that prevent us from winning a game because we're not as zeroed in as we need to be.
Right. The final 102-81, and the first time Massachusetts has scored over 100 points since the 2020-2021 tournament. That was the COVID year tournament down in Richmond against St. Joseph's. I wanted to add, there's a lot to get to in this box score, Coach, but I think one of the things that I noticed early on in that game was Quinnipiac was really savvy with getting those backdoor cuts, and they got a couple of good looks and some easy buckets. And then you guys were able to shut that down really early on in the first half. Yeah. What was that adjustment that you had going into kind of cutting down that back?
Well, that's the way we defend. People try to attack us by back cutting us. So there's a plan in place, what we teach to defend that. It's part of the whole deal is you got to have a style of play. And then you have to understand that every style of play has a West Coast offense in football. Why was that created? to overcome what? Buddy Ryan's 46 defense, who used to destroy your quarterback if he took seven-step drops. So Bill Walsh created the West Coast offense, which is a quick passing, crossing route kind of deal, because it's the way to overcome blitzing. So if you're running 46 defense, the old Buddy Ryan defense, now you got to be prepared to how to adjust to the West Coast offense, which is designed for that defense. Well, it's the same thing. The way we play defensively, people try to beat us through back cuts, and two things that were not good was, number one, we were allowing their center to catch the ball at the elbow, which is a no-go, non-negotiable with me. And then number two, the spacing on the guys that were off the ball was not what it needed to be. Guys were a little over aggressive, which I'm okay with. I'd rather teach you how to back off a little bit than teach you how to be overly aggressive. And then as the game went on, we took away the elbow catches, and then we kind of we shrunk the distance between us and the guy we're defending, which allowed us to get to those back cuts.
I think folks look at, hey, you played Albany, you played Quinnipiac, maybe not the top tier level of competition, but when I was kind of putting my boards and charts together for that Quinnipiac team, they've got some guys. I mean, that's going to be a good team in the MAC and the AAC, and two guys that were there for their 6th year as starters. So, your thoughts on the level of competition that you saw?
Yeah, they got guys that have been through it. They've won 20 games a year for the last 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. Quinnipiac, that is. Balanc is a first-team all-league player. I mean, he's good. Otiero, the center. I mean, yeah, he's good. And the kid Reyes can really shoot it, and he's got size and unbelievable amount of experience. Their point guard is not much of a scorer, but he's a 5th-year senior, and we're playing with freshmen at the point, and so it's being prepared. I think they're really good offensively, and I think as Tom Pecora continues to put his thumbprint on their team, and they continue to grow defensively, I think that's going to be a really good basketball team. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that because we beat them. That was my opinion before the game. My opinion, and my opinion is mine, and it's doesn't mean it's a gospel, but it's what I think, because I know TP, and I'm watching their players, and I'm saying these guys are good offensively. The young man that transferred from UConn can really score. I mean, he's got a great feel to play, and so it's you put all those things together, and I think for us to be able to adjust against a team that's got winning in its DNA, that's got the experience that they had, and for us to be able to utilize the game to adjust to what we needed to do better during the game to figure out a way to win with so many first-year guys, I think it's a credit to our players.
Yeah, and so you mentioned the UConn transfer that Quinnipiac had. He was on UConn a couple of years ago as well, when where Sewell Diggins was there. Richie Springs won the title last year, didn't play a ton, but now he transfers to UConn. You had a huge game from Sewell Diggins. What did you see from him in a career high of 22 points in that performance on Monday?
Yeah, I mean, it all started with him when last season ended. Last season was complicated for him for a bunch of different reasons. Some were self-inflicted wounds. Some were just wounds of life. You can't control them. Correct. And he had to learn how to commit himself to becoming a better player, to helping us win, to growing. He had to change a bunch of habits. And I'm not talking about like life habits. I'm talking about just how he managed his day and where his emotions were placed into. And then he got a whole off season with our strength coach and with us monitoring his body and his weight. He had to put on a little weight.
Yeah.
And then the last component is in life, I'm a big believer that you get what you deserve. When you put in the work, sometimes you don't get the reward you want, but if you stay with it, eventually it all works out. But when you don't put in the work, And when you combine life to basketball, when you don't put in work in basketball, that ball will not go in the basket for you. It's just, it doesn't reward you. And he's learned to put in a lot of time. So with sacrifice, commitment, work, he's grown. Because of growth, he's more confident. And so he's out there connected to me, connected to the coaches, trying to help young players, and very committed to being a good player, which is what he was in high school. And now his challenge is to continue to build and grow from there. But I'm really happy for him, because he's the one that had to adjust how he did a bunch of different things, and he's made the adjustments, and now he's playing with confidence. He's got to be happy. There's no way he could be happy last year because he wasn't working at it. He wasn't sacrificing to be good at it. Now he has put in the time, and it's hard. It's easy to stay in your apartment and watch TV or read social media. It's hard to come in the gym and shoot countless hours of basketballs. Well, he's done the hard because he's dealt with the hard. Now he's finding joy. Like I like to say, Jay, joy comes from growth. Growth comes from difficulty. If you don't get the joy without going through difficulty first, and that's what he's done.
We're talking about Rasul Diggins, who had 22 points on Monday in a win against Quinnipiac. I thought what really opened things up for him, Coach, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but he made a three early on. And when he can showcase that ability from long range, it really makes him lethal when guys got to get out and guard him, because he's so quick. He can get downhill and get to the bucket. So now he's a scorer on, multiple levels.
That's why he was a top 70 high school player in the country. There's a reason he was the Philadelphia City Player of the Year his senior year in high school. It's Rasul's a good player, and I've been around some good players that never put into work. Never worked out. And if he had not made some of those adjustments, then he loses his edge of being a good player. But he has. And because he has, I've stayed in his corner, because he's been willing to take on the growth component that we just talked about. And he's been man enough to embrace some of the adjustments that he's had to make on how he goes about his days. And he's in a good space right now. Now the challenge as a coach is to keep him there. His challenge as a player is to not get distracted and not take step backwards on your own. Sometimes you have to take step backwards. It's just life makes you. But it's when you do things that you make yourself take step backwards, that's where you're wasting time. And that's his next step now. We got to deal with that one.
One thing I think you wouldn't be aware of, but even prior to your time here, finishing around the rim, I think for UMass has been one of those areas that just really hasn't. The 2-point field goal percentage, shots that you feel like probably should go in, just really hasn't been there the last 5 years. What we saw on Monday, I mean, I'm going to look at what Marquis Worthy did, being able to get to the rim and score and finish. Do you think that you've seen improvement in that area this season so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're much better in that category. I thought I shouldn't say I thought. I know we were like 300 something in the country, and 2-point field goal percentage in the paint last year. I don't know what happened here before then. And to be totally honest, I really don't care. But I know last year was something that was frustrating. Those are deflating plays, but they can also be encouraging plays that add moxie to your team. And I think that's what this team is doing right now, because whether it's Marquis, Rasul had a great play in the middle of their zone, whereas a 3-point play. All those are uplifting plays. Matt Cross had some great drives. Last year, he was trying to play quick on those. Now he's using his strength and his balance to create angles to go up there and score. Josh Cohen, his ability because he's somewhat unorthodox around the basket, but when he gets to his left shoulder, that ball goes in for him. He knows how to put it in the basket. And so those plays become uplifting because it's really hard to get the ball to scoring areas. And when you get it in those areas and you continue to miss, it becomes a deflating play. These guys are doing it the other way. They're converting at a high clip, which is taking our enthusiasm up a notch.
You had was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys score in double figures.
Mhm.
One guy who didn't score a ton was Keon Thompson, but he got in a little foul trouble. Uh, game two for him and year two for Keon. What was your assessment of his performance on Monday?
Yeah, I thought he played well offensively. He had some great drives to the basket against our defense, which is what allowed us to play differently as the game evolved. Is that him and Marquis drove that ball and scored. So then their defense had to be accountable for that, which then opened up some of the post ups and the cuts that we started hitting. Um, but I thought defensively I don't want to say he struggled, but he committed some bad fouls. And he's really good defensively when he's guarding the point guard as he's bringing the ball up the floor. But when you put him in a closeout and then he's got to get out there on the catch and keep the guy in front of him, he was bad at that last year. He's gotten a lot better at it, but he kind of reverted during the Quinnipiac game. He was like his closeouts weren't very good. He was off balance, and he was lunging, which then allowed him to get beat, and that's where he committed his fouls. But Key's awesome. Key's all in, and he all he does is compete every day to make everyone better and to accept coaching and create an environment that allows us to hopefully find success as we continue to go through this journey.
How about the speed at which your
Oh,
team
yeah.
has played the first two games?
Yeah,
Just what you want.
yeah, absolutely. It's I like playing fast. Pace of play to me is important. Running teams are not about two guys running and three guys jogging. No, that makes you a jogging team. Running teams is five guys all running, doing their jobs, and we're not there yet, but we're getting there. It's a lot of fun because you can attack the defense before it sets, which means now the defense is whatever responsibilities that they drew up on the board about how you're going to help on certain things or when this guy drives or all that. That's good when your defense is set. If you attack that defense as it's running back, you have the opportunity to be able to get at it and not allow it to utilize whatever strategies they had in place. So we're not there yet, but we're playing fast and aggressive, and that's something that I'm really, really enjoying.
How much do you pay attention, at least early on, to what the rest of the A10 is doing?
I don't. I mean, I look at the scores because I want the A10 to win. I hope we win every game as a league. I hope I don't think we're there right now, but I wish everybody was undefeated by the time we got to league play. This league's too good. I've gotten to know some of the coaches in the league I knew from before, and now being in the league, I've gotten to know a lot of guys that I really never spent a lot of time with before. This league's got some really, really good dudes and good coaches. So I root for the league. I want the league to win every game because I think the players in this league and the coaches in this league are really good. We have, as coaches in this league, we have a responsibility to what the A10, from John Chaney to Calipari to everybody else that's coaching this league, Phil Martelli, keep going.
Oh, yeah.
The league that everyone around the country knew, we have a responsibility to make sure that we upgrade the visibility of this league and the quality of basketball in this league to match what was always there. The respect that exists for the A10 nationally comes from that. We got to get it back there, and that's our jobs as coaches. I think the players are really good in this league, and I think the coaches in this league are really good. So I follow the league from that standpoint.
Just you know a lot of coaches. You've been in this business a long time. I had a pleasure to get to say hello to Coach Pecora for Quinnipiac before the game. He was at Fordham. For those that don't know, he recruited Chaz Williams to Hofstra, one amazing UMass standout. He's a funny guy.
He's the best, man.
He's hilarious, man. I got a snippet from him, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's a character."
And he's got stories for days.
He told 3 within like 20 minutes of me talking to him.
Oh, he's got and they're all real. Every one of those stories, they're not made up. And when him and Jay Wright were both young, like I think Jay was an assistant and TP was like a GA or something like that with Rolly Massimino. They got stories about that back in the day with that crew. He's one of the great dudes in this business. I'm a big TP fan, and he's a friend. And I told him after the game, I only played the game because he asked. Because there's some teams I don't want to play against because I like the people that coach the team too much. Like West Virginia, when we signed up, Coach Huggins was still the coach. I really didn't want to play that game, but I understood it because at the time he had just been inducted into Hall of Fame, and I know our team's going to be better. Just like playing TP's team, we got better because of that game. We didn't go through the game and win and just kind of stayed in neutral. We had to do things a certain way, both offensively and defensively, to win, and so his team made us better, and that's what it's all about.
Your 3-point shooting first 2 games has been really solid. In fact, overall on Monday it was 56% from the floor, 11 of 28 from 3-point range. One guy I don't think we've seen actually fill it up yet is Robert Davis Jr., who, in all accounts, could be one of the better 3-point shooters on this team. So how dangerous can it be when he kind of gets into a rhythm?
Yeah, I mean, I can I speak selfishly for a second here?
Have at it.
Because I rarely speak about me. I guess I'm not as bad an offensive coach as some people say I am. It's if I got to hear crap about, how bad a coach I am on offense when our team can't make 2-point shots, maybe, we score some points. Maybe they say I'm a better coach now. I got no idea, but nor do I. Hey, and I'll be honest with you, this is my show, so I'm having some fun with it. But I really don't care what people think about my coaching abilities. Rob's got and he will help us because he works at it, and he's got a special spirit to how he plays. We need him to make some shots. He's got to grow in some other categories. And like all young players right now, he's worried about his ball going in.
Right.
And I told him at practice today, that's the last thing when I worry about him, that's the last thing I worry about because he puts in the time. He's in there shooting balls all the time. So his ball will go in. We need him to do some other things a little bit better, and he will. And Rob's a special young man. He's a really good teammate and works his tail off, and he's going to make some positive plays for us.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this question early in the season, and I'm going to come back to it at the end of the year. Who do you think, because I was able to witness you guys, I was at shoot around today, practice, seeing the guys interact. Who do you think is the funniest player that you have on this team? Who's the funniest guy on the team?
Rasul Diggins.
Is he really?
That's probably he's probably
he never shows it.
Yeah, because around me he gets really I don't know. I've got that that vibe sometimes that makes people try to stay serious. But Rasul's really funny. I think the guys love picking on Keon, and he's not thin-skinned, so he kind of rolls with it and makes it a lot of fun for everybody.
That's a good answer.
Jaden, I think, is a little sneaky prankster. So that would be my guesses.
All right.
Those guys.
We'll revisit that at the end of the season. One guy that we haven't seen yet, we talked about him last week, is your big man, Matuk Majok. He is out for one more game, the Harvard game, and then should be coming back before Thanksgiving against Central Connecticut State. Is he allowed to practice with the team in this stretch? And how is he holding up? Not being able to actually get on the court in games.
Yeah, he is practicing, and he's it's been a little frustrating for him because he's not playing in games. I can't give him reps, or at least too many of them, as when he's doing our stuff. So he's basically running the other team stuff all the time. And for somebody that young, he needs as many reps as he can get with what we're doing. But his reps will come back as soon as we get through this Harvard game. But he's gotten so much better as a player. I mean, he's in a much better space. It's one of the reasons I took him, because I saw how much he improved. His high school coach at Bridgeport, Greg Brown, from the day he got to Greg to the day he finished with Greg, he took a huge step forward as a player. And so that's part that I'm real patient in recruiting, and that's a big reason why, because I like, here I go with my old corny ways. I enjoy growth. I like watching people get better. I want to feel like I'm help. If all I can say is I help people win games, then I did it for others, not for the people that are around me. The people around me, which are the ones I get out of bed to work for every day, I want them to feel growth, that they got better, that they're better prepared for the next day. That's what drives me every day. And so that's why I'm patient in recruiting, because growth is such an important component for me to have peace to do my job. And when I see guys that get better, it's my opinion that they'll continue to, if you coach them, they continue to get better. And we've seen that with Matuk. He's made a huge jump from when he got here in June to now. And I'm excited. I'm excited to get past this Harvard game. Number one, it's going to be a great challenge for our team. It's a great opportunity for our team. And then to get him back in the fold where he can impact games the way he does in practice.
What is the best Thanksgiving dish?
Ooh.
I don't know if we're gonna get to talk next week. I hope we do, but if we don't, I gotta throw a Thanksgiving question in here. What's your go-to when everything's out on the table? What's your first move?
Well, I cook 2 turkeys every year. I deep fry one, and then I slow cook one in my Traeger grill overnight. I smoke it. I just crush it.
Which one of those is better? Which one?
They're both different. It's a different vibe. The smoked is a drier, not dry. It's a drier, smoky taste.
Yeah.
And then the deep fried one is like when you bite it, that grease just comes down the side of your neck. You know what I'm talking about. I've seen you eat those slices of greasy pizza. It's just like that thing just keeps coming. I love bread. I know some people look at me sideways because I love bread. So I love stuffing. Like I crush. I like good stuffing with some good bread. Oh my God, I destroy it.
But the stuffing doesn't go in the bird because you're deep frying one.
No. I like my stuffing on the side.
Okay.
I like it on the side. I got to be honest. I mean, I'm 275, my weight. When I'm working out, when I don't work out, I'll go touch 300 really fast. That doesn't happen because I'm really picky about what I like to eat. I like food. I don't hide from it. I'm not a big fast food eater. I'm not a big, let me sit down and eat a big bag of Doritos. Have I done that? Yes, but that's not my thing. But I love food. And when it's good food and it's cooked and it's like, I can sit there and eat with the best of them. All the stuff that's not good for you. Rice, potatoes, bread,
starchy.
I'm in.
You got carb load.
And then once I'm just jam packed with food, you put a good pumpkin pie or a pecan pie in front of me. We're going to town now. We're gonna do some work.
Well, I guess you're in the right place because of the UMass dining and all the tastiness that they have to offer here. You have Harvard on the docket. This has been a fun matchup for UMass over the last several seasons that I can recall. You guys won down at their place last year. Has their team changed a ton from year to year, and what can you expect in this matchup?
Yeah, that they have. Their personnel is different. He lost his starting point guard to an Achilles injury, and they're 4-2 in the middle of summer. Who played point for him last year too. Lost him. Then he had 3 guys who's what's the word I'm looking for? Ivy League eligibility expired, but they still had time left.
A year, yeah. They can only play
transfer to other schools.
Yep.
So he's got some young guys but their center is still the same guy. Their power forward was their sixth man last year, who was a freshman. And then they've got their 1, 2, and 3s. Their 2 and their 3 men were there. Their 3 man got hurt like 3 games into the season, and then he didn't play much the rest of the year. But he's back now, and he's good, can really shoot it. Their 2 man is an athletic guy that had never done a lot, and he's taken a huge step forward as a player. And then they've got a freshman point guard from the DC area that's dynamic. I mean, he is off. I mean, he's gotten off to an incredible start. They're playing a lot faster than they did last year. Tommy Amaker, that is their coach. Tommy is everyone sees Tommy, and Tommy and I met when we were both in high school. We played against each other for a regular season Christmas tournament championship at the high school level. He was at W.T. Woods, and I was at Miami Senior, and they beat us in the championship game. And I've been following him since, and we've become friends over the years. And Tommy appears to be soft-spoken, but he is as mean a competitor as there is. He was as a player, and it's who he is as a coach, and that's why his teams always play the way they play. This team kind of looks like it fits him. They're really, really competitive in their defense and their aggression for the ball, and then offensively they're pounding it inside. They got 2 really physical guys that play, 15 feet and in, and they just come at you. And then when you're worried about them, then that point guard, he creates different actions, for lack of better words, that loosens that point guard up so he can have some space, and he is shooting that ball at a high clip. And so they're good. And then their 2 wings are both old, 1'6", 1'5", and they're big and strong and know how to play.
They just dismantled Northeastern on Tuesday night. Do you look at this like hey, this is a good test to see where we stand as a team 3 games into the year?
Yeah, absolutely. It's because they're different. They're different than what we've played against. We've played 2 teams that are very perimeter oriented, highly talented shooters on the perimeter. And now we're playing a team that is a lot more, I don't want to say driven, but it's a lot more man-to-man aggressive defense. They have more size on the perimeter. And then they're a team that plays inside out offensively. They don't play for the 3, they play for the 2. And when you collapse to guard the 2, then they shoot the 3. And that's how they play. And they're really physical. They got size. Like Albany had the big kid. I can't remember his name
Beagle,
right now.
yep.
Beagle, but then they didn't have a lot of physicality at the 4 spot as far as the way they weren't soft. They just the way they played on offense. Quinnipiac, same thing from the 4 spot. It was more of a catch and shoot 3 guy. This team here at the 5, the 4, and the 3, they're coming at you. They're getting in the paint. They're putting their head down. They're knocking you over. They're going after the ball. They're posting. They're rebounding. So it's a different physicality that's going to be a first time. I've been through it with Matt Cross. I know how he's going to handle it. But all these other guys, I've never been through it with them. Yeah. So, how are they going to handle that? I don't know. So that's where my excitement comes from. And that's why it's such a good challenge, because it's such a different team than what we've played against. And they're good.
Before we head out, you mentioned Matt Cross. We didn't talk about him. He got into foul trouble a little bit early, and Quinnipiac had 3 points in the first half. And then it looked like in the second half, he was saying, hey, I'm going to score the basketball. I'm going to start to take over. Is that something that you saw in him, like saying, hey, this is going to be a moment for Cross when he gets back out there? Like he was, you know what it felt like? You ever watch those old wrestling matches and the tag team, there's one guy that's getting beat up in the middle of the ring and his tag team partner is just like itching to get tagged in? That's kind of what it felt like for Cross in the second half.
I should have played him in the first half, even though he picked up 2 fouls, because I trust him. And I think he's smart enough to handle that moment. Everyone's different. I love all these opinionated people that have never coached or never had to make decisions. they're always saying what every coach should do. You got to play them with 2 fouls. Analytics say, man, screw analytics. Everyone's different. We're human beings. We're not computers. There's some guys that don't know how to play with fouls on them. You can't play them in certain moments. And there's guys that they can have 4 fouls, and you keep playing them because they're not going to commit the 5th one. So it's Matt. I should have played him more, but our team. Matt's been our best player in practice every day. Matt's the guy. Those plays you saw coming out to start the second half, he's been doing that in practice every single day. But as the first half wore on, I thought our team was doing a pretty good job. They had taken control of the game, and I said, so I'm sitting there trying to decide whether to put them in or not, and I was like, as long as these young guys are controlling the game, this is a great moment for growth for them. So the day that we don't have Matt Cross, we don't freak out because he's not in the game.
Right.
And at the same time, I was managing that thought process along with, do I want them to maybe pick up the 3rd foul because we've got freshmen and one of them makes a mistake on on defense and now he ends up getting called for a foul. So I wasn't sure. So I said, let me just ride this and let's see if these young guys can grow. And they did. And because of that, I made the decision I made. But what you saw Matt do in the beginning of the second half, that's who he's been in practice for our team almost every day. Yeah. We got to work with avoiding some of those cheap fouls that he's picked up early in these first 2 games. But he's and then Matt's all about winning. He wants everyone on this team to make the right play. If the right play involves him, great. If it don't involve him, great. He just wants to make the right play and let's win. And he knew that his teammates had held the fort down in the first half, and he wanted to make sure he came out in the second half and thanked them by doing his job. And he did, and popped the game open.
He's so much fun to watch. I know as a coach, you look at it differently, but I think when the fans see how he plays and how hard he plays, do you think that rubs off on some of the younger guys?
Oh, no doubt. He brings a certain physicality to every play in practice that if you're a competitor, you're not going to get out of his way and let him have his way. So you have to deal with it. And so now you're better prepared to handle opponents. So you learn how to compete against that. It's like Keon Thompson. Keon's in a much better place as a player. That's because Jalen Curry's coming after him every play in practice. So now Keon has had to grow. That, I don't know if you remember me saying this last year or not. When we went through all the injuries, we basically had Keon and nobody else at the point. So now Keon's trying to learn how to be a college point guard, but there's nothing in practice that could resemble that for him to go against to get better. And his growth had to be in the middle of a game, and that's hard. Well, these guys, they have that competition in practice that's making guys better, and then it makes Matt Cross better. And that's why you see him playing the way he is right now.
1 or 2 words that you would use to sum up the attitude, the mentality of this team in the first 2 games, what would that be?
Fun. They do. It's hard to have fun when you're around people that don't do things for the common goal. If I'm doing my own thing, that might be fun for me, but it's not fun for everybody else. This team is all about doing what we need each person to do so we can put it all together and enjoy the journey. And they're making it a lot of fun. They make it fun for each other. They make it fun for me. They're a joy to be around. And then we're tough. We got some guys that they put their nose in there and they go. And they my good friend Will Muschamp, he had a saying, you got to stick your face in the fan. And these guys definitely stick their face in the fan. I mean, they're fun to be around that way.
Coach, thanks so much. Good luck on Friday, and we'll talk to you next week.
You got it, Jay.
All right, that is head coach Frank Martin. He's just being Frank. Until next time, my name's Jay Burnham saying so long from Amherst.